A somber mood has engulfed a village in Juja constituency after a middle-aged man killed his entire family and then took his own life last evening. The incident has apparently been pegged on a multi-million shilling scam, which some members of the family say may have caused the man to kill his spouse and 3 children after losing close to £1 million shillings. Timothy Otieno begins our coverage tonight.
Neighbors stream into this house in Maraba area, Juja constituency, perplexed by the events of Monday night that have left in its wake the death of 3 children as well as their 32-year-old mother. 40-year-old Patrick Nderito is the man accused of beating to death his twin children, aged 4 years old. He then turned his attack on their eldest son, just 7 years old, before killing his wife, Rose Kanini, and then setting their house on fire. By the time neighbors arrived to put out the blaze, it was too late.
Sasa ndio tulipata watoto wako hapo chini. Sasa tulikuwa tunamulika na simu. Unajua area hii hakukuwa na stima. Tulikuwa sasa tunamulika na simu. Tukaona sasa hao ndio watoto wameshauawa hako hapa chini, lakini hawana jeraha lolote la moto. Lakini tayari wameshauawa. Unaona hata mmoja ametokea sasa, amegongwa, hujui ni kama ni nyundo imemgonga ama ni nini, damu imetokea hata kwa kichwa.
Nasitikika asubuhi ya leo niliposikia kwamba wamekufa. Mama ya watoto hao ni mama mpole mwenye furaha kila wakati. Siamini kilichotendeka. Hata saa hii nashindwa kuamini. Watoto wake walikuwa the obedient children in my school. They were loved by everybody.
We find George Karuiru sifting through the charred remains of what used to be a home for his late brother Patrick and sister-in-law Rose. He still remains in shock as to why his elder brother would take such a shocking course of action.
Nilipigiwa simu nikienda kazi asubuhi. Sasa nikaambiwa bradhangu amesema nikuje ati kwake nikam nimuone. Because tunafanya kazi na yeye. Sasa yeye ndio mkubwa wetu sana, akasema anataka ati kuniona. Sasa ni kama hao watu walikuwa huko walikuwa wamejua ati kumechomeka. Sasa venye nilikuja kufika pale hivyo nikapata watu wamejaa hapa kwa gate. Sasa mimi kuingia nikapata tu kuko tu hivi, nikapata kama watu wamepelekwa mochari.
But what would lead Patrick to kill his wife and 3 children in such a brutal manner? Sources close to the family suspect that the genesis of this bizarre incident might have been a deal gone sour in which Nderito is said to have lost about 1.5 million shillings to unknown conmen.
Nikamwambia ujue bwanako akikoniwa hiyo pesa atajiua. Na sister yangu kitenya aliniambia na mimi siwezi achwa. Hata mimi najua. Nikamwambia hiyo ni pepo mmeingiza kwa mboma na hii pesa itawaletea mashine.
According to a neighbor who spoke off camera, Nderito had been convinced to raise the money in order to bid for a tender to supply building materials to an unspecified Kenya Defence Forces camp. Through loans sourced from friends and groups where his wife was a member, they were able to raise the money and had already given out 500,000 Kenya shillings before they discovered it was a sham. The wife started suspecting foul play and discouraged the husband from going ahead with the deal, a matter that brought about frequent disagreements between the two. Eventually, the husband is said to have secretly withdrawn the rest of the money and handed it over to the said conmen, who immediately disappeared and went offline.
Nikamwambia hapana, hao si watu wazuri, waambie bwanako nini achane na watu. Na yeye juu alikuwa anataka pesa, alikuwa ameacha kazi kwenye alikuwa naona hiyo ndio ilifanya. Vile alikoniwa hiyo pesa akaona ajiue na uwe hata watoto.
Uchunguzi unaendelea ndio tuone kiini ya chanzo ya hiyo maneno.
The remains of the 5 family members were taken to the city mortuary in Nairobi pending an autopsy. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
Very sad story indeed. we are still getting details of that happening. Let's now bring in Dr. Frank Njenga, a psychiatrist, renowned psychiatrist, joining us to try and explain this incident. Thank you, Dr. for joining us. We are still trying to get the story behind these bizarre killings. What would drive a man to kill his entire family and then commit suicide in such a scenario?
First thing, of course, is our very deep condolences to the affected families. Now, this story you've told us reminds me very much of events that took place in 1926, when a chap called Charles Ponzi, the famous man of the Ponzi schemes, caused many people actually to end up taking away their lives because of pyramid scheme type activities that led to the financial catastrophe and disasters of many families. So, although we are not allowed as mental health specialists to speculate on people that we have not personally examined, I think the generality of your story is very strongly suggestive of a man who may have taken his own life and that of his family in the context of extreme disappointment in the face of financial ruin, very similar to what we saw in the year 2008, where there was a collapse in the financial systems right across the world. And a number of people actually did commit suicide, both in the United States and in Japan, in exactly the kind of circumstances that you have described.
All right. So it is not the first such incident that has details of a money or an economic sense in it. Tough economic times, would you say?
Well, I mean, the reality, of course, is that in times of financial catastrophes, usually in the face of economic depression, the rate of suicide right across the world do tend to go up. And the reality, of course, is that when a human being is faced by a catastrophic failure in the financial systems, not only does he look at himself, but there's also the tendency to look at those that he loves the most and those people who will be the subject of great difficulties in the event that what we have heard described were to come to pass. So I don't know the exact circumstances of this man, but in general terms, this sounds like a very typical story that comes about when people face financial ruin in the context of a Ponzi-like scheme.
I know you've tried to explain the financial catastrophe issue. That would explain a suicide, as it were. But why kill 3 children, innocent children, and the mother? Mental health is not talked about very much in this country. Is that a possibility?
Well, I mean, of course it's a possibility, and we can't. One of the things that happen to people who are, say, for example, suffering from depressive illness is that they have poor systems of judgment. And in fact, it's possible that one gets cheated and has money taken away from him because his capacity to make decisions and to make a judgment as to whether he's a good man or a bad man is taken away in the context and in the desperate situation that many people with depression find themselves. But let me say something else, which nobody has mentioned and which may not apply completely in the case of this man, which is that a lot of instances where a man kills himself and kills members of their families, usually there is a complication of drug or alcohol use. In other words, the disinhibition that allows somebody to act in the kind of way that has been described often occurs in the context of somebody who has been using alcohol and drugs. But desperation in and of itself can lead somebody to do the kind of things that we have seen. We simply do not know and must not comment on this particular case without further information.
The rest of the family are shell-shocked at this moment. How do they move on from this?
It'll be pretentious of me to begin to imagine that I would have an answer to that kind of very specific question. The reality, of course, is that since the days of Adam and Eve, Cain and other people who came before us, death has always been with us. And human race is engineered by the creator or maker of humankind to be able to survive and live beyond any catastrophe of this nature. Therefore, I would expect that they will, in the course of time, be able to move on. But today, tomorrow, and in the coming few days, the pain and desperation that visits all human beings who have lost dear ones must be what we'll expect of this very tragic event in this very unfortunate family.